I didn't know who you were.
Oh.
And boy, I found out real fast. It's kind of scary, you know. And and so when I heard you liked my bourbon, it was like the biggest. It was like, oh my God.
The Fred Minnick Show is brought to you by Michter's and 291 Colorado Whiskey.
Right now, I'm in Bardstown, Kentucky. I'm at the Bardstown Bourbon Company. This is the little vintage, library that I curated. So, very excited to. I sent you some cool stuff. So,
hey, I got it. I sat it here on the floor, and I knew I wasn't supposed to open it. But yeah, this some pretty. I love the Fred Minnick, the little tasters. Hey, check this out.
Yeah.
How cool is this? Huh? Look at this. Is that cool? Yeah, this is pretty nice. Really nice. Uh-oh. Here, hold it right here. How's that?
That's perfect. That's perfect. So, yeah, I'll kind of go over a little bit about what I sent you.
Okay.
I sent you an I.W. Harper, distilled in 1916, and bottled
right there
in 1933. And then
got it.
I sent you an old Granddad. This would be. This is from the 1970s. This is a stellar. This is a stellar bourbon, 86 proof. And then I sent you a very old Barton, which is from the 1960s. So we have some good whiskey sipping to do. And then I got from you what I think is your next release, a 2-year-old rye from Green River.
Yeah, Green Rivers. I think Ryan sent that to you, or Jacob. Yeah, we just came out with the rye. As a matter of fact, we are going to do about 5,000 cases this year of rye.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we're real excited about that. And I'm telling you, Fred, I've never been a rye guy.
Uh-huh.
But, man, I don't want to toot our horn here, but doggone, it's good. Well, I hope you like it.
Well, I'm looking forward to tasting it. And then I got batch 2 of the bourbon. So very excited about that. Of course, like batch 1, I had thrown it into one of my blind tastings, and it came out number 2 in a very, very strong lineup. So you and Jacob have put out some good whiskey last year. So you got something to follow up with here with batch 2. I'm very excited to try that.
It's coming out the first year was right in the middle of right at the beginning of the pandemic, so we couldn't promote. We still haven't been able to get out and promote.
Yeah.
But to do 10,000 cases the first year, I thought, and was told that's really good, because a lot of these places, a lot of distributors wouldn't take on new product. Mm-hmm. So we really had our hands tied. But thanks to you and a few other people that tried this bourbon, this whiskey, and liked it, has been a huge plus for us. I'm not kidding you. It has been just absolutely huge. And of course, my falling in love with my own bourbon was very important, because listen, I could have easily just put my name on it, moved on, and not worried about it. But I've got to work this bourbon, and I've got to travel. I got to sell it. Mm-hmm. It had to be something special. And I'm not like you by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know what I like. And I like this whiskey. This whiskey is good. It does everything I hoped it would do. And I haven't gotten anywhere close to being tired of it, which is what happened in the past. I'd drink a whiskey and get tired of it and move on to something else.
Well, let's start with batch 2.
Got it.
And one of the things I want to tell the audience is that it's not. So you all make it at Green River, formerly the Terracentia facility called OZ Tyler.
Right.
A lot of people don't know this, but you're one of the few whiskeys coming out of there that's not actually using the rapid aging process. So this is just Kentucky bourbon like anything else. So a lot of people don't know that. And I'm just curious, like, how did you make the decision to go with the facility in Owensboro? Because I know you probably had a list of people you could work with.
Well, here's what happened. No, that's totally not true. If I take you back to the beginning of the bourbon, it was just something I wanted to do. I felt like it would be something I could get behind, something I could work, something that would keep me busy, something that I hopefully would be absolutely in love with. So that would make it easy for me to sell it. And really, that was it. Now, how do you do this? Anybody got an idea? I didn't. But we got in touch with Ryan McElveen, and through Gordon Whitener, and they hooked, and then Ryan hooked us up with Jacob Call at Green River Distillery. I had no clue who these people were. I mean, I'm just a guy coming up with an idea. Mm-hmm. That is it. And we met in California. I gave them my dream of this bourbon. What I wanted a wow taste. I wanted to have a wow impact. I wanted it to taste good, and I wanted the taste to last and not fade out on me. Mm-hmm. That's a tall order when as a bourbon drinker, I cannot describe like you can. Well, I taste this, I taste that, I taste this, I taste that. I just taste bourbon. All right. Now I'm trying to put my senses to use, and I'm trying to, as I sip my bourbon, I'm trying to find out, okay, what am I tasting here? And something I'd never done. But initially, it was just simply, here it is. Can we find somebody that would want to do this? And what's the procedure? I had no list of anybody. I didn't know anybody. Listen, I didn't know a soul. Okay. When we're talking about from ground zero, not only is this whiskey from ground zero, its owner is from ground zero. I mean, let me tell you what I did. I went out, and my wife and I were laying in bed, and we watched Neat. Okay. So we had to get a little bit of history behind us. So we watched Neat. I was like, oh man, this is so cool. And then we watched it twice. And then 15 months went by after our initial meeting. Ryan McElveen had to go to Jacob Call at Green River and say, and I hate saying it like this because I don't like it, say it. Terry Bradshaw would like to start a bourbon. Any interest? And he says, well, we've done or do celebrity bourbons. And so that's obviously the category that I fell into is celebrity. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like it because I looked at this as a long-term business investment, and I didn't want celebrity being strapped to it. But hey, it is what it is.
Sure.
So he said he and Ryan defined, here's what he wants, here's what he needs, and the taste, so on and so forth. 15 months later, we meet in California again. He brings me out 2 bottles of of the bourbon. We blind tested like you did, and the very first bottle I drank is the one you're drinking now. And I went, oh my God. We let it sit, let the heat kind of come off of it, because I would tell all my friends, when you pour bourbon straight, just let it sit, let it kind of vaporize a little bit. Let it kind of smoke die down. You know how you build a fire with wood and it's real smoky and then it gets real clear? Well, that's the same thing with bourbon. Let it settle and then drink it. And so that's what we did. Fell in love with it. Gave a big thumbs up. And next thing you know, we go back. I told him I wanted a long neck bottle. I wanted a smooth bottom like Gunsmoke. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to dress it up with a bunch of celebrity junk. I wanted it clean. So Bradshaw Bourbon is the name. They put the Super Bowls on there. I didn't. That was not my idea, but they did. The 51.9 alcohol is my NFL completion percentage. And the 51.9 was the perfect blend to get the whiskey at 103.8. And so that's a piece of trivia. And
happens to be an excellent proof point too.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Ryan felt like the whiskey would be really good from 103 to 105. And so he basically hit right in the middle of it. And so that's how we did it. Now, the key to this whiskey, as you were talking about rapid aging, the key is obviously the yeast. And Jacob, it's the only thing I don't know about my bourbon is the yeast, but
it's one of the super secrets of bourbon.
Yeah,
and it really is amazing how a single cell organism can impact it. You know what the funny thing is, Terry, is in Scotland, where they're making scotch and just have all these like stories of, rare whiskeys. They don't put as much emphasis on yeast as we do here in the United States. So the celebration of yeast is very much a United States whiskey. And, then in Scotland, they're much more about the blending, than we are here. But, I just tasted it. I smelled it. And I have to tell you that it is, I know it says it's 2 years old, but it tastes quite a bit older than that to me. It's not grainy. It's like really expressed with beautiful cornbread notes and some like salt and pepper. So when I was a kid, my grandpa used to put cornbread in milk and do salt and pepper. I grew up on that, and this is what that reminds me of. It reminds me of cornbread with salt and pepper.
Well, that doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
You know what? It takes me back. I like it.
I know, but you know what? Some people say, "Well, I can taste the cinnamon, I can smell the marshmallow, I can smell the smoke," and I'm over here going, "Wow!" So it truly, hey Fred, it truly is. Each person has a unique taste.
Oh, that's exactly right. And
unique taste.
And some people have like actual genetic skills to it. Like there's tasting and smelling is passed down just like athleticism. And then you can also train yourself to, just like you could train yourself to be a better athlete. It's very similar. And I happen to have come from a family that we can smell things like 5 miles away. And that's no joke. I grew up in Oklahoma. I know you're in Oklahoma now, and
right.
Like I grew up in farm areas, and I would smell like fertilizers like 5-6 miles away, especially if it caught wind. But that's a skill, a trait that I have in my family. And then I trained myself after I returned home from Iraq to taste, and it was it's something that it just kind of hit. I had no idea I had a skill for this, but I'm glad I found it. I'm really glad I found it because
Yes.
I drink whiskey for a living, Terry. I mean,
I know. You know
what's
what's Fred? It's funny you should say that because I have a great nose for the farm. I can smell things in the dirt. I'm just like you. I will have to cultivate. If I had various whiskeys open up in a glass, poured out, I would be able to start understanding the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I understand the taste. I like my bourbon has to taste how I feel it should taste. Now, how do I describe that? Well, quite honestly, I can't. It's just that it does. It's got a little more kick to it. It holds its own. And I'm sitting here talking to a guy who is an expert at bourbon whiskey, and I'm as curious as to how you got into the Hall of Fame of whiskey as I did in football at such an early age. That to me is pretty amazing. So your story to me is way more important than mine. I know mine, but I don't know yours necessarily.
Well, Terry, I'll tell you that those skills that you have of smelling the dirt and the farm and everything. The thing is that you can smell those same things in whiskey. So, like anything that you've tasted, anything that you've smelled, it's stored back here. It's just a matter of looking for it in the tasting experience. And so I'll kind of walk you through it, and I'll share with you like how I got to where I am. But it really. So my story begins when I got home from Iraq. So I was a soldier, and then I came home, and I got a job as a food editor for a trade publication. And I ended up writing about food. And then when you write about food, you write about alcohol. And at the same time, I was having to, basically battle. I mean, I know you're very involved with veterans and USO, as am I, and I know the stories of PTSD and how real that is, and how tough it is for a lot of soldiers to come home.
Right.
And I was in that camp. I mean, if it wasn't for the love of my life and being in the right VA system, I mean, I don't know where I would be, to be quite frank with you. And I had a therapist who saw this thing I had of like smelling and tasting, and she recommended that I do a exercise called mindfulness, and it started with the barbecue chip, where I would taste the barbecue chip and feel it all over my palate and think about where it was and what it tasted like, and that would take my mind off of all the anti-war signs and all the things that would trigger me in some of my war stuff. And I was able to, while I was doing that and cataloging that, I found out that I could apply it to bourbon as well. And then it just kind of kept, escalating. I kept doing things in it, and I've written several books since, but that's basically, how it got there. And now I teach people how to taste, and I'm just like, I mean, I didn't. It's not like I went to a high school counselor and said, "Hey, so I like drinking bourbon. How can I drink bourbon for a living?"
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when I got into the bourbon, this is my soon-to-be 4 years when we started, and it's a long process.
It is.
But when I got in, I found out that you, my friend, were important to my bourbon. I didn't know who you were.
Oh.
And boy, I found out real fast. It's kind of scary, And and so when I heard you liked my bourbon, it was like the biggest it was like, oh my God, Fred Minnick's like my bourbon. Are you kidding me? And it was just like all that work that we put in, came to fruition. It was right there. We got a good product, and I was so proud of that. And it meant a lot to me. It still does.
Well,
being on the show with you, this is very huge for me and my bourbon.
Well, Terry, I always tell people too, like I consider myself a nice guy, a friendly person. But if I don't like your product, I will tell you. And it's happened there at OC Tyler where they blind test me. I was like, no, I don't like that. So,
Yes.
I mean, but it's like I think I even told Jacob after this. I said that this is the best thing that they put out from their distillery.
Wow.
Is Bradshaw. So. And I think your batch 2 is right in line with that. And Jacob, I think he's onto something. And I'm excited to see what else he's got cooking there. And I do want to taste the rye before we get into those vintage ones.
Yeah, but, you're gonna like that. I hope you like rye. And now, once again, I'm not a rye drinker. Never have been. So for this, is pretty smooth stuff.
So this is the 95% rye.
95.5,
yeah,
right.
Okay. All right. And then this is also 2 years old, which young rye I actually typically like.
Okay, what are you smelling? 95.5?
No, it doesn't actually smell like a 95.5. Usually 95% ryes are very herbally. This is kind of got like a medicinal nose.
Ooh.
With like sugar cookies.
Cookies.
We're all over the place here, Terry. This is like
yes.
This
We've
is
gone from dirt to sugar cookies.
I taste sugar cookies on there, and then a whole lot of spice. So this is very spicy.
Is that good or bad?
Oh, it's great. It's falling in line with what you would want a rye to taste like.
Okay, good.
But so
you would tell me the truth, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Good.
And like so, spice is like so a lot of the training for learning how to taste is just understanding where things hit your palate.
Right.
And so like sweetness will be on the tip of your tongue, and like there's like a splash of sweetness there when I first taste this. That's like that sugar cookie kind of note. There's like no notes in the middle, so the middle part is like where I would get my savory, and the bitterness will come into like the back and the middle, and the bitterness usually expresses itself as like a pecan shell or like a super dark chocolate, something like that. In some cases, you'll get like a brininess, but like this explosion of this whiskey is on the back palate. My biggest critique for it is the finish is pretty soft. So like it comes in with like a big boost of spice in the back palate, and then it kind of goes away. It doesn't have a very long finish. And I think that's also too, like you're comparing it in some ways to your bourbon, and your bourbon is a very it has a medium to long finish. So it's almost like they're from very different distilleries. So, and that could very well be the grains are so different.
Yeah, I know that when I tasted it, the thing I came away with the rye, and once again, I'm not a rye guy, but I came away with the fact that it was a non-biting, very smooth flavor to it. We took a bottle on the golf course with us.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sipping it all the way around the golf course. And I kept going, man, this stuff is good. It's just really, really smooth. But once again, a guy that has his name on something, although I'm pretty hard on myself, I do like my bourbon, and I do like the rye. So,
well, I'll tell you this: like, I wanna see how the rye performs in some like cocktails.
okay,
And the bourbon, I want to sip it neat. So that's the fact you're sipping it on the golf course kind of falls in line with that. It's an easygoing, you're out doing stuff whiskey, whereas the bourbon at the moment is like you're sitting down by a fire and you're sipping it and talking to your friends and thinking about it.
I do. Yeah, my wife is she's kind of would be one of your best students. She is a very technical, very scientific thinking person. And she tries to taste her way through the bourbon. And she loves to sit down. Both of us do. We like the lights low. She's in her chair next to my chair. Fire's going, some old black and white movies on, and we've got a Bradshaw bourbon in the middle, and we're pouring two fingers, and it's something sexy about that. I don't know what it is, but
I mean, you're painting a scene here, Terry. That I think my audience is like, well, all right, we're going R-rated here. So
no, I stopped right there. We're no. Pajamas are on.
Listen, whiskey leads to things. So, but you've definitely have made a splash in the business, and now there are two other NFL Hall of Famers in the whiskey game now. Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson are both have whiskeys out there now, and I'm thinking like I got to get you all on stage together to do a taste off, to do some kind of event. That would be fun.
I wonder. I heard about. I heard Charles was on your show.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Peyton's been on, but I do know that the thing I heard about Peyton's bourbon, his whiskey, was that it was extremely expensive.
That's right.
And so I decided, okay, that's not really a serious whiskey player, bourbon player. Mm-hmm. I'm a serious player. I've got, we're riding out like we're doing right now. And I don't know what Charles is doing. And you've grouped me with, Hall of Famers, football players. But the key to this bourbon is to work it. It's got to be affordable. We're at $39.99. We're very affordable. I stand my stallions at my ranch at $1,000 because they need to be affordable, not $2,500. We sell our babies for an average of $10,000 to $12,000, not $25,000 and $30,000, because you got to sell them. You got to get them out in the public. So I know that's a lot of money, but I'm very, very conscious of America and most people that are hard workers. $39.99. That's not high. It's not low. It's medium. I guess you would say. I bought a lot of bourbon, and I would think $39.99. Okay, I'll try that. It's not out of my wheelhouse, but it better be good. And my plans for my bourbon are to sell 45,000 cases this year. We're on mark to do that. The rye, we're already projecting we'll do 5,000 cases next year. We'll come out with some single barrels. We'll be doing that. We don't know how many. We're having a meeting next week. We're going to be doing a lot of things, and we're charting right now a sales plan before football season where I will work the East Coast, come across to the Midwest, South, and go across and hit all the markets before football season. And even during football season, I will take one day a week and travel and do 2 stops a day. So I'm working hard. And listen, Fred, I'm learning. I'm not going to sit here and I'm learning about bourbon. I'm learning how it's made. I'm learning about taste. I can only come up with something that I like. And then it's like I told you earlier, I hope you like, because tastes are different. And
well, I'll tell you, your bourbon, you could call it Uncle Bob's bourbon, and I think it would still be in the conversation of people being very interested in it. And I think that when it comes to and like you said, you didn't like being lumped in the celebrity category, but when it comes to that celebrity category, that doesn't always mean sales. And
no,
with the bourbon drinkers actually kind of frown upon that, and it wasn't just me who said your bourbon was good. There were many others, and to include like influential people in social media talked about it, and the price is a big part of it. So
absolutely,
kudos to you for having that in mind, and it's a pleasure for me to get to kind of take you down a little bit of a vintage lane here, if you will. This is the part about being in the industry, being in bourbon, where it's very much a historic industry. It's a unique to American industry. And, the brands that I'm going to taste you with are going to be ones that you get, give you a little story to go with them. And so, like, we'll start with Old Grandad. Old Grandad is a brand that used to be distilled by National Distillers. National Distillers was bought by Jim Beam in 1987. And so National Distillers was really famous for doing 86 proof. And so, like, not a lot of distillers could pull off the kind of flavor that they could do with 86 proof. And so what we are about to taste here is like a throwback to a lot of those great distillers, and this was before GMO corn. A lot of the yeast that they had was within that company for generations. From my understanding, it is now extinct, although I do have the recipe for the yeast in terms of how to propagate it. I got that in some archives a while back. But this right here, this came out, let me just verify that one more time. So this came out in the 1970s. So this would have been during your heyday,
right,
with the Steelers. So cheers to you, my friend, and welcome to the crazy, wacky world of bourbon.
It's beautiful. I wish I had one of these open. I'm not going to open these you gave me. My son-in-law is a huge bourbon drinker, so we'll pop a top on this Bardstown that you sent me. You sent me some is it Misters?
Michters, yeah. So
yes.
some Michters, 291.
Yes, 291.
And then Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Right, and I got these are so cool.
And those little tasters, are you ready to taste those? Can you give those a taste?
I'm sitting here wanting to open up something. I'm having to hold this thing. Let me see if I can unplug that.
All right. So you have to hold. This is dedication here, Terry. You're holding your phone while doing all this. That's great. There we go. You're perfect.
Oh no! Hold on. I got to use your glass.
You can use whatever glass you want.
No. I'm going to use yours. Oh. Oh yeah. Okay, listen. Hey, Fred, you ready?
All right. Yep.
I got very old Barton. Okay.
So let's start with the Old Grandad.
Okay, you mean to go Old Granddad. Got it right here.
Let's start with Old Granddad.
Got it. All right, here we go.
So these are little tasters that I whipped up to send to you. And I wanted to get you, products that would be, meaningful to your journey. And, the 1970s was pretty good decade for you.
Not bad. Hey, you know what? I've got an idea.
I'm all ears.
I need to come and get on your show together, and we can just sit there and taste a whole bunch of stuff.
Jack, the in-person stuff's where it's at,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, plus you can... Now you're smelling. You keep doing this. Are you letting... Are you what are you trying to do? See if there's different flavors?
So when we smell, your nostrils are going to be very different. Like one nostril might be clogged up, or one might be oversensitive. So I like to go back and forth, and I smell with my mouth open. When you smell with your mouth open, it kind of relaxes your olfactory, but you can also taste it when you breathe out sometimes. And so, like, you kind of go back and forth.
That's amazing. I just did that, and this whiskey had a whole new smell.
Now, this one, you talked about having the connection to the farm smells, and there's some earth in here. There's some earth, some tack room. So think about going into your tack room. Think about some of those sweet feed
leather.
Feed your horses. There's leather in here. There's molasses, like grouped into the oats, like you're pulling out like some sweet feed from a bag and just smell it. There's all those notes in there, and it's very specific to people who know what that smell like.
Well, I'm going to sip it. I've smelled it to death.
That is the one. That is the one thing when people pay to do tastings with me. I think they're like, "Would you shut up and can we sip whiskey now?"
Yeah. Okay, this never made it to the back of my tongue. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah, this never made it to the back. It stopped right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Big old, and it is very. This is one where if you let that sit out for a little bit, it's going to taste very different because it hasn't. This whiskey hasn't touched oxygen in 40 years. So this was a brand new bottle when I cracked it open for you.
Wow, it is so true. Learning so much about whiskey, I have found out, like a good red wine, they say let it breathe. I stir it up and let it sit. Whiskey seems to be the same way. Let the heat kind of blow off of it. Let the cells start running and screaming. Swirl it around a little bit, and like you're smelling it each time. I mean, the more you stir it, it seems something else wakes up. I don't know what it is, but.
And a lot of it is like, it's oxygen's touching that liquid for the first time. And there is inevitably to be change. And there's also the aspect of evaporation. If it sits for a long time, some of the alcohol might evaporate out, or some of the water might evaporate out. So there's some of those kinds of things as well. But, when we taste something like this is made very differently than they make whiskey today. And it often the same recipes, but be very different equipment. Today, there's a lot more computers involved, so there'll be more like, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of like football today. You got analytics, and football too in the 70s. Very different products, very different, very different formations and what have you. But it's definitely unique.
Good. This is good. Yeah. I like this.
So what does this? So let's compare this to football. What is this? Is there a game in the 70s or a play in the 70s that this reminds you of? Anything come to mind?
Well, you're putting me in a position where I have no answer. I'm not going to lie to you, Fred. Listen, you're asking me to drink this and have this remind me. If I could drink a bunch of this, I can tell you, I can go back and tell you some times where, yeah, I remember this. I got knocked out on this, but no.
Fair enough.
This is I'm not there. I want to be there. I want to be like you. I want to be smart about this stuff. It's, you know what? I think people that get into whiskey, bourbon, I call it bourbon. I don't call it whiskey. Bourbon is a little sexier than whiskey. But I find that more and more people, especially younger people, are starting to appreciate good bourbon.
Absolutely.
And they're starting to kind of, think that they got a pretty good handle on this. And
yeah,
I've been in some Lexington. I went into a whiskey bar, bourbon bar. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's amazing. I did not realize, Fred, that there were that many bourbon whiskeys in America. I had no clue.
Yeah, and the funny thing is the majority of them are made at like 8 distilleries. That's the kind of one secret is like there's so many of these are made at like distilleries here, and they're just like like Jim Beam has a dozen brands. Heaven Hill has, good Lord, I can't tell you how many brands they have, north of 30. Sazerac, Buffalo Trace, 1792, they have a lot of brands. I mean, it's, the business is kind of shadowy, some of that stuff. But if you're inside it, or if you want to become a geek, it's not hard to learn. I mean, like, my book discloses everybody's mash bills and where stuff comes from and all that. But it is definitely a fascinating time in American whiskey, and you got in just the right time.
You know what? Before I started my own company, my story, as I talk about it, it keeps going further and further back. Mm-hmm. I ran into a lady in Hawaii, and I bought a lot of bourbon, a lot of wines at her old store. She had some of the most incredible wines from all over the world, and nobody knew about it, just a little old dump. And I'd go up there and I'd buy my whiskey, and I'd get my wine, and then I'd go up and she'd say, "Hey, have you tried this whiskey? Have you tried that? Crown Royal? Have you had Jack Daniels? Have you had so on and so forth?" And I was always trying something different, And one day I got some Four Roses, and I said, "Hey." So I started drinking Four Roses, and I thought the bottle was pretty, it's pretty cool. And so one day I had tons of people coming and to the house. All of them were, whiskey people. So I went up, and she had maybe 2 bottles of Four Roses, and she said, "I am so sorry." She said, "But let me ask you something. Would you be interested in your own barrel?"
Oh.
And I said, "Well, how do you do that?" She says, "Well, I have to be the one to give you the barrel. I have 2 barrels a year for this shop, and you can have one of my barrels. I will call the people at the distillery. I will tell them you call and follow up, and then you fly in there and you pick out your blends that you might want, and they will make you, and it's your barrel." So I went, "Get out of here." So I did. And my wife and I flew up, went to the distillery. They had 19 blends. You've been there. You've seen these. You got these blend charts. Yeah. And so the whiskey guy came out, and I wanted to call him. I call them sommeliers. I don't know what I call Saumoniers. Really smart whiskey guy. Okay, so he comes out and he's the master distiller. Matter of fact, they told me he was in the Hall of Fame. So
Jim Rutledge, was it Jim Rutledge?
Is that who it is? It's been a while.
Yeah, so
nice
it would have
guy,
been Jim.
very nice guy. So see, this is what I got to do. I got to know what you know. Anyway, so he comes out, and they have all these whiskeys lined up, and so my wife and I, we start sipping, and you write notes. You sip and you write notes. So we're sipping, we're writing notes. Well, I sip about, I don't know, 8, maybe 10 whiskeys, and I'm writing notes. And she goes all the way through to 19. I don't know how she did it, a little bitty lady. And she ended up picking out the same thing that the master distiller picked out. So we bought a barrel of it, and shipped. And you have to ship it to a retail store. So we shipped it to Captain Kirk's in Sarasota, Florida. We ended up getting, I think, 115 bottles out of that barrel.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So I went in there, had my name was on the bottle because it was made for us. And then the blend, the mash bin was on the bottom. And so I went in there, sold the bottles for $100 a piece, signed every one of them, gave the money to Wounded Warriors.
Awesome.
So I said, man, this is cool. Went back, did it again. And then went back, and did it again 3 times. And by then I was convinced that I needed my own bourbon. And that's how it ended up moving forward. But the Four Roses was the first time I'd ever been to a distillery, other than when my grandfather's brother had a still, and my mother loves peach, what do you call it? Moonshine, peach moonshine. My mother doesn't drink at all. You hear me? At all. She's 92. She will kill for some peach moonshine. Amazing. So I got a little history with this stuff. I have a little problem with my preacher. They think I'm, kind of a heathen, but I totally disagree with that. I'm a good guy. I just like bourbon.
I mean, here's where I will go with next up we're going to do the very old Barton, clocking in from the 1960s. Let me give you the exact year. So 69.
The very old Barton.
Yeah.
Is this it? The very old Barton right here?
Yep, that's it.
All right.
That's it.
I haven't finished this. Oh, and by the way, I'm down to probably 2 sips. You see that?
Yeah.
It seems like each sip has taken on a new taste.
That's right. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Well,
huh?
and your palate's getting more accustomed by the second too. So
yeah.
And you can go on to a new glass if you want to. You don't got to sip the whole thing if you don't want to.
Yeah. Now it's funny. Now I taste the leather on the back of my mouth.
There we go.
On the back. Yeah, this is good. Now I got a feeling I'd be an alcoholic before I got really good at this. I see you got water chasers there. I don't.
Yeah. Water, and you gotta if you go into tasting mode, you need
crackers.
To spit. You need to spit as well. Like sometimes it's okay to spit, and you gotta you gotta give yourself off days, so you don't want to. You don't want to be drunk all the time, obviously. But
well, no, I don't want to be drunk. Period.
But it's like your liver is a powerful organ as well, and you got to take care of it. So you got to give yourself off days.
It's a fascinating business, isn't it?
It is.
It's a fascinating product. It's like I said earlier, it's bourbon is very sexy. I've got this thing. I'll tell you what it is, Fred. I'm going to shoot this. We haven't been able to shoot anything yet,
Right.
But we're going to shoot this scene. James Bond, okay?
Right.
Now, I love it when he wears the tuxedo. Undo the tie. All right. Dark oak bar.
Yep.
Fireplace in the background.
Okay.
Cigar. Sitting maybe on the bar or standing with your foot cocked up, and then I've got 3 gorgeous daughters, and have them dressed to kill, sitting around there sipping their bourbon. I want to take a picture of that. I want that, and I've got the guy to shoot it. Got an amazing photographer, and I want to shoot that scene so bad.
And you're James Bond in this shot, or who's James Bond?
Yeah. You're saying I'm not good enough. Is that what you're saying?
No. So first of all, James Bond was a vodka drinker. Yeah. So
yeah,
like,
but I think I'm only equating him with the tux and the tie.
Oh, you're only building this shot from
exactly.
Got it.
No, I'm not a vodka drinker. I'm not a gin drinker. I'm not a beer drinker. I'm a bourbon drinker.
See, that's gonna ingratiate you so much with bourbon fans, because they, most of us hate vodka.
I don't like vodka. I can't stand gin. Tequila you can have. I don't like beer. If I drink beer, I'll have one beer and that's enough for me. Mm-hmm. But this is my preferred drink right here.
Have you sent a bottle to your boys on the set, Howie and Jimmy and them?
I have. Howie doesn't drink. He drinks red wine.
Okay.
Jimmy probably sold his to a next door neighbor, knowing him. Strahan, actually, I sent him a case at Christmas. He loved it. He loved it. The producer at Fox NFL Sunday, Bill Richards. Mm-hmm. I call Ryan McElveen. He's our COO. You know Ryan. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I called Ryan and I said, Bill Richards is the bourbon guy. When we fly together, we just drink bourbon, he and I. And so I said, let's send him some bourbon. He said, okay. I said, send him a case and we'll put it in the green room. So he did. We put it in the green room and the girls came in, and the next thing you know, my wardrobe took some, makeup took, and the next thing you know, he got a bottle. And so he says, it's gone, TB, it's gone. I said, well, good. We're spreading the word. Okay, I'll get you some more bourbon. So I called Ryan. I said, send him some more bourbon. He said, how much? I said, send him another case, but this time we'll send it with his name exclusively on, so he can take it to his office and nobody can get any of it. They send him 17 bottles. Wait a minute. That's all our profit for the year. I said 17 bottles. He said, TB, do you know you sent me 17 bottles of your bourbon? I went, no. I told him a case. He said, I got 17 bottles. You want me to send them back? I went, no, absolutely not. Enjoy them. And I saw him 3 weeks ago, and I asked him, this was Christmas, a little bit after Christmas. Here we are in, coming up on June. And I said, how you doing? Do I need to send you more bourbon? He said, I got 7 bottles left. So he's doing okay.
That's great.
But it's fun, man. The fun thing is I got here. You can see mine. Here's mine. My little. What do you? I don't even know what is this.
You don't get a full bottle. It's just a little sample.
No. No, I don't. You're right. I don't have a full bottle. Oh. I don't have a full bottle on this ranch. I've got 60 bottles of this, and this goes pretty fast.
Yeah.
I kept it up at the ranch office, And I keep all the bottles of bourbon that I drink here. And there's like 9 bottles up there empty. Now, when I say empty, I didn't drink them. The staff drank them.
Well, in some of the old veterinary health guides, like even going up to like the 60s, they would use whiskey to treat their horses, for things like colic. So, I mean.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they do all. I mean, they would. Whiskey was a very good medicine for horses as well as humans.
Woo!
And what do you think of this one?
This one jumped me.
It get you?
Yeah, right off the bat, right on the tip of my tongue, it lit me up.
So this is made at the same place today that is 1792.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Woo! Yeah, this.
This is like sometimes older vintage whiskeys don't do well. I think this is one of them. This is like a cherry cough syrup. I'm not a fan of this one, Terry. I'm not a fan of it.
Well, I would not dare say a negative about anything you sent me, but since you said it first, yeah, this is different.
Yeah, here's the thing: is like whiskey, old bourbons, like you have been sitting in someone's basement for 30 years. They're a crapshoot. I mean, sometimes the seal, so we look at the seal of it. Sometimes it's like perfect; it'll be on there perfect, and sometimes there'll just be like a microscopic turn of the cap or something. Oxygen gets in there. Maybe it's stored next to like something that's hot, and like who knows. But for whatever reason, and I've had many of the Bartons from the old days. I don't like this at all, and but I will say it's not the worst thing I've ever sent to anybody.
I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do with this. I'm gonna let this sit a little bit longer.
Yeah,
because when I tasted this, immediately it lit me up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the tip of my tongue was on fire.
It just got you, huh?
It did.
It got you. And just sit on right down in there.
Yeah, I didn't even get it past the tip of my tongue. I lost all taste after that. It was so hot. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it's not a hot whiskey.
Yeah,
it's 8 years old, 86 proof.
8 years old's young.
Yeah.
Can you? I'm anxious to see. I'm 72.
Mm-hmm. I
hope that when God calls me home,
which will be for a long, long time.
Well, when I go to heaven, that is for a long time. But I hope it's a long time before that happens. But I hope that you give me a toast with my bourbon. All right.
Absolutely.
And that bourbon in say 25 years is just, I can only imagine what's going to happen in 2-3 years.
Yeah.
We still got a reserve coming out. Which is interesting.
I mean, that is extremely exciting.
Yes.
I mean, you've got a lot to be proud of. Coming to the scene.
I'm proud of the team, Fred. I mean, think about it. You put together a bourbon team, and you can't tell them what you like. They have to say he wants a wow effect, and so it goes. 70 corn, 21 rye and 9 barley, and where's the water mix and put it all together. And we got to have, it's going to be really, it hits the spot between 103 and 105, which is what? 104, 51.9. Bingo. There's your proof. I mean, it's amazing adventure. You know it?
Absolutely. And the thing is, I applaud anybody who gets in the business, and because it takes a lot of money. This is not a cheap game.
No,
you spend you can spend millions before you ever see a nickel. So
yeah, it's. Hey, listen, it is. Yesterday, get this. We've been in business now almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday was the first day I ever asked this question. Do you ever think we'll make any money? and we're getting close. And I'm thinking, I held reservation because obviously, I want to make a living here. I can't be on television forever. I need something that gets me out of bed every day. I got to have something that jacks me up. Quarter horse business does it, but
mm-hmm.
I've stumbled onto something, and I thank God for giving me the wherewithal to, I don't know how this is going to sound, to come up and have the idea, well, let's see if you can get a bourbon going, right?
Well, but I think it's, first of all, I think it's beautiful. And you said something that I never even fathomed, but are you thinking about retiring from television? Because you're such a staple there.
No, I'm not thinking about it. But Fred, hear me loud and clear. How old are you?
42.
42. Well, I'm 30 years older, and you know what happens in television. There's always a young stud that comes out of playing, and they push you out to pasture. You've got to always, you can't ever say to yourself, I'm irreplaceable. Everybody is irreplaceable. And I mean, I'm set for retirement. Mentally, I'm set for it. My wife and I, our kids, they're all doing well. We're good, but you just have to plan. I would love for my bourbon to take off, and it would pose this problem.
Yeah.
Do you leave football to promote, to really take this to another level? My involvement, my commitment is my name's on this bottle.
Sure.
I got to sell this stuff. I've got to be there, and that takes time and it takes money. But I'm willing to do that, and so you have to always. I think you always have to say, how much longer are they going to keep me? Okay, I'm signed up. Listen, I'm 2 more years for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll see.
Well, Terry, I'll push back on that a little bit. If you were at ESPN, I would say that's probably a good way to be thinking. But, I mean, that's like a murderer's row of letting people go over there. But,
yeah,
you're with a network that seems to, I can't, you've been with the same team for
28 years.
28 years. I mean,
yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for that continuity. You all have a really good rapport.
We have a great rapport. We also have Jimmy Johnson. He's 78. I'm 72. Howie is 60. Michael is 53, which is young. Tony Gonzalez is, he's younger. He's 40. So, I mean, we've got a good blend, and we're very fortunate. That group of people, we went into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame last year, and we're still going. I know nobody knows about that. You would think that Fox's PR someone would release that, but they haven't. But we all went in, so I never dreamed about going into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame with the show. That's a truly amazing thing. Yes, huge. But we get along well. America still likes us. We're 28 years in a row now being the #1 pregame show. We swamped competition by 51%. And that's combined. So we never take We never take a day off. We never take ourselves for granted. We work just as hard today as we did when we first started, and we have a lot of fun. You know,
and you can't forget about what's the robot, Cletus? Cletus. You can't forget about Cletus. Now, is there an actual person there when Cletus is on the set and you all have to look to them, or is
Yes. Cletus, when he's on the set, he's a real dude, big dude, really big. But yeah, that's a big man inside there. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, so we're going to go to the I.W. Harper, and this is if there was one to toast a Hall of Fame, Terry, this is distilled in fall of 1916, so prior to World War I.
Wow.
And bottled in 1933. So this was distilled more than 100 years ago.
Get out of here.
And this would have been prescribed to somebody as medicinal whiskey.
Can you buy this retail?
No, you have to be a special hunter to.
That would be you,
or
so
like
say,
go to auction.
Hey, Fred, how about you got a couple of bottles of I.W. Harper? You can send me for a special bunch of folks.
Yeah, I mean those people exist. Yeah, you can also auctions are a really good place to buy them, and and this is the auction market is so crazy right now. These bottles are going anywhere between $20,000 and $40,000 at a full scale. Like this is a smaller one, but
are you kidding?
They can be very pricey. But
well, I will not. This will be the only time I.W. Harper that I crack you open. I leave this.
Well,
until I come on the show. Hey, when I come up on the show live, you and I will bust out some I.W.
I love it, and I'll see if I can get like I have someone who dresses up in a costume. I'll see if I can have my costume person show up, and you can feel like it's a set, and we can have like
no. Look, Fred, I need to escape. I need to be there.
Oh, got it.
Just me and you, and all that bourbon behind you.
Oh, done.
Man alive, what a job you got. Holy cow.
Someone's got to do it,
How'd you get so popular? I hadn't figured that out. I mean, not popular. You're a powerful man. I got all this. I got letters from you. I got boxes. I mean, you're seriously a powerful dude.
I don't feel that way. I don't think that way. I just do what I love. And to be honest with you, that stuff makes me feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's because you're a good guy.
I don't think in those. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good people don't. They know it, but they get uncomfortable. We all want to think good of ourselves, and that's fine. But I don't want to talk about myself, and I'm like you. I don't want anybody else telling me what I've done. I know what I've done, but I don't. Yeah. But this.
The things I'm most proud of is like what. So Bourbon is a very philanthropic community, and I am so proud of the things that I've done in Bourbon that have helped raise money. Like we just raised $175,000 using Bourbon for the Ronald McDonald House. I have one of my annual charities is a USO in Washington D.C. We continuously raise over $100,000 there.
I'm the MC for their banquet.
With the one coming up?
I do we do it every year. Last year, last year was the last year of the banquet. We missed this year because of the pandemic. And the pandemic last year, we were there when it just hit. And we opened up a USO It's one bass. I forgot the name of the bass, but we've done 4 basses since I've been doing this. And the singer Lee Greenwood didn't show up one night, and so I sang his song.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Lee's got a bourbon out now, so.
Oh my God.
He might have heard you were. Yeah, he might have heard you were going to be there. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm glad to know. I've done so much work for that USO, man. That is, hey, I'll tell you a story since I have you here. I went to the USO a few years ago, and I said, I want to do a Christmas show for the troops, okay? And I'll get Fox to film it, and we'll make a special like Bob Hope did.
Right.
And they went, you can do that? I said, yeah. So I go to Fox, David Hill, head of Fox Sports. And I said, David, I got this idea. I want to be Bob Hope. I'll hire the writers. I'll go out. I'll do a monologue. I'll sing. Then we bring out Miss Universe. Then we bring out comedians, and we bring out, U2. We bring out, whoever. And we do a big Christmas special, and Fox, and we put it on Fox and USO and bingo, and there it is. Fox says, oh my God, that's a great idea, but we've got to film it in August. So this was like in March, okay? Mm-hmm. Not enough time to put it together. The USO goes to Wayne Newton and says, hey, we'd like to do a US show. Would you like to headline it and be our... And I'm like, are you kidding me? That was my idea. You can't take my idea. But they did. And so Wayne went over and he did it for a couple of years. But quite honestly, the troops don't know who he is. He's not on TV. He's not a sports guy. And, so it's still there. I still have talked to General Milley about it, head of Joint Chiefs of Staff. We're going to make this happen.
Hey, if I can help with that, I'm in it.
You can pass out bourbon.
So I help specifically the DC branch, so the Washington DC Post, and the service is Walter Reed.
Right.
And we do an annual bourbon auction, and a really good friend of mine, Kurt Colson, kind of sets it all up, and I come in and I, talk about the bourbons, and they sell high-end dinners at Jack Rose, which is an incredible whiskey bar in Washington D.C., and it's just wonderful. And it is kind of like there were so many things and movements, but COVID just ripped that from us, and it is what it is. But
we'll get it back.
Yeah.
You got to sell some of my bourbon. Maybe I could be there to auction off my own bourbon.
I think what would be cool is if you did like you did with Four Roses, those private barrel picks that you did.
We're going to do. Yeah, we're going to do
USO barrel.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good thought. Matter of fact, you heard me earlier say we're doing some of those next year.
Yeah.
I think we're doing 500. Nice. I think that's correct. Sounds like that's the right number, because we've been asked that quite a bit. Is it 500 or 50?
Well,
it's not a heavy.
That's a very ambitious number for you.
Well, then I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but we've been asked a lot, and about the private barrel thing. I didn't know what it was actually till they told me.
And now you're in the throes of the whiskey geekdom,
Yes.
Which is great. But it's the evolution of having a whiskey brand, and
yeah,
I gotta imagine it feels good, and I like where you're going, and I like what you're doing, and
thank you.
definitely do have a good team, but and I hate to say this, but this Harper, this thing needs to open up. It is you can when I tasted it, it was all cinnamon, and there was just really kind of.
I found it to be unlike the Barton, which burnt, was really hot at the tip and disappeared. I found this to be hot front and middle.
Well, this is a taste.
I do
of
like
history.
the way it smells, though.
Yeah, this is definitely a taste of history. I mean, this is. I believe the reason why we picked this was because this is the year that the Steelers were founded.
Really? Hey, can you smell? What is it I'm smelling in there? I was going to tell you. I was going to actually show off.
The nose is really quite amazing, and it doesn't taste anything like it smells.
No, you're right.
But I think that might be because it's so old, and it just needs time to sit and have that oxygen there on it a little bit.
It's almost we're being disrespectful.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And
yeah, this bourbon deserves the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, so I'm gonna.
Because I like this, even though I found it to be extremely hot. But now that I'm stirring it, and I didn't pour as much as you can tell, so I could shake it a little better.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna pour myself a fresh glass of the Bradshaw.
Do it. Hope that doesn't mess up the others.
No, well, this one needs to sit, and then we can just talk as that thing's opening up, and we can get back to it. But I really, one of the things that I admire about you, Terry, is that you always, it doesn't matter where you are, you never really kind of try to be that guy to stand out. And there's a video, they showed it on they showed it on Fox when you helped out a woman.
It was a man.
When they were showing you helping out with the groceries? Was it a man you were helping out, or
the guy couldn't start his car.
Okay.
Yeah, and he needed a jump, and I didn't have. I looked for jumper cables because I always keep them in my car. All my cars and trucks have jumper cables, and my wife saw what I was trying to do, and she knew that the cables weren't there. She bought a set of jumper cables inside the FedEx office. They were on the wall. And so I went over there. She called me over, and I went over and got the jumper cables and gave the guy, and it was raining too, but he needed to get where he needed to get. I forgot what he was doing, but, and then we gave him the cables because I kind of had a feeling he might be needing another jump, but you would have done the same thing. I think good people help good people, and that's just the way. That's what we're supposed to do, right?
Well, I
can't imagine not helping this guy.
I'd like to think so. It's different times, but and a part of it is like everyone's always being filmed all the time, and and did you know you were getting videoed at the time?
I had no idea. I didn't know what was going on because they ended up. My wife just walked in behind the camera here. They filmed that on the pregame show, didn't they?
They ran it on.
They ran it on the pregame show. I had no idea. I was kind of like you. I was a little bit embarrassed, but then there's a part of me that goes, "Okay, look, see, we should help one another." So it was a good story there, a good message.
Absolutely. And that's always been your kind of like, philanthropic, big heart kind of, attitude, toward life. And it's a good example for people,
Well, I know my kids appreciated it. The kids see their dad do something like that. And, it's a good message for them. It's a good message for anybody. Look, once again, I didn't think anything of it. Hey, my wife was the one that really deserved the credit because she was the one that saw what was going on, knew what the guy needed, and she bought the jumper cables. So kind of a team effort. But Bradshaw. I didn't know I was being filmed, and I was having fun. The guy had no clue who it was. That's why at the end of it, I went, touchdown!
Yeah.
He was in a hurry. Nice guy.
Well, but you're filmed everywhere, and so like it's just the way it is today. And when this whiskey that we're tasting here, I mean, most people hadn't even been photographed. It's kind of, and that's one of the beautiful things about whiskey is that while there are a lot of tinkerings and bells and whistles that have been added to it, the production and the concept of it is the exact same as this I.W. Harper that we're tasting.
Do you call all bourbons whiskey?
I go back and forth. I'm a writer, and so bourbon is a whiskey. But as a writer, it's just in my head to kind of switch around words a little bit. So I'll call a barrel a cask. Go back and forth like that.
See, I didn't know. I called it whiskey. Always have. But as I'm learning, hey, look, I'm not going to fool you. You could throw me some Q&A right now, and I'd probably flunk the test. But I'm learning. I'm learning. I want to learn. Mm-hmm. Very simply put, they told me that a bourbon was whiskey put into a white oak barrel, charred at number 4, or that's what we do, and sits for 1 year. It's a bourbon.
Well, you have pieces of everything that you have said. Can be attributed to a couple different things, but in a nutshell, to be bourbon, it has to be predominantly corn. So there are other types of whiskeys in the world, and in other parts of the world, they don't call things corn whiskey. They just call it grain whiskey. So things that have a lot of corn in it, they don't even recognize the corn in a lot of ways. But to be bourbon, it has to be at least 51% corn, made in the United States, distilled at no higher than 160 proof, going to a new charred oak container at no higher than 125 proof. And the new charred oak container or a barrel is what separates bourbon from other whiskeys in the world, because Scotch, Irish whiskey, Canadian whiskey, those are all going into used barrels, often used bourbon barrels. And they are, that's what separates it. But to have Kentucky on the label, it must be mashed, fermented, distilled, and aged here for at least 1 year. So that's where you got that. So Kentucky bourbon has to have that on there. It has to be in Kentucky for 2 years. And that came about. Is it true? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You finish.
Well, I was going to say, and that law about Kentucky came about because people were getting distillate from Tennessee and trying to bring it in Kentucky and age it here to call it Kentucky bourbon. So there's the whiskey industry is always full of shenanigans, always.
Yeah. Well, I was told, and that to be a real bourbon, only can be a bourbon, it has to be distilled in Kentucky.
No, a bourbon can be made anywhere in the United States.
Okay.
So there's.
But if you're in Europe,
mm-hmm.
there aren't bourbon is there. They have theirs is whiskey.
Right.
in Europe.
So yeah, so what they make there is depending on the country. So no one outside of the United States can use the term bourbon.
Got it.
And so like there they have to call it a whiskey if they were to make it in our style.
Right.
Something interesting about Europe is that they have to age it for at least 3 years to call it whiskey, whereas in the United States there is no limit requirement. There's no. I mean, the whiskey could touch the barrel for a second, pull it out, and they could call it bourbon. It's not going to be any good, but they could call it bourbon, and that is there's nuance and regulations everywhere you go, and it's definitely fascinating and
it is. I mean, White Dog. When we were at Green Rivers, and we were standing over we'll call it, the mill. The mash bill was on the left, and it was going through a big clear plastic tube over into the holding tank, basically, before it goes into the barrel. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crystal clear.
Right.
And my guy goes, "Would you like to taste your White Dog?" What's a White Dog? And I had no idea. And he said, "That's White Dog. It's the whiskey before it goes into the barrel, and the barrel then gives it the color, and so on and so forth." So I said, "Absolutely." And so before that went in, I opened up the top, got a little cup, got me some White Dog, toasted everyone, sitting around 136 proof. Oh, I was shocked at how good it was.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I'm going back in here for the I.W. Harper. Let's see if a little bit of time changed it up.
Well, I finished mine, and I got a little left. Definitely better.
I'll be damned. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
definitely better.
Yeah. It's still a very rich bourbon, very like cherry, a lot of cherry notes in there. A lot of I mean, it's a cherry bomb.